This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 560 of the Eventing Radio Show, brought to you by Eventing Riders Association of North America. This week we have Lynn Symansky and Erin Sylvester. This is Max Corcoran in beautiful, sunny, gorgeous, fabulous, perfect Ocala, Florida.
This is Joe from the same place. I don't know what else to say about it, Max.
It's just so great today. It's like the most perfect weather. I cannot believe it was so crap over the weekend.
You are listening to the Eventing Radio Show. Yes, Max, it was a pretty tough weekend for us, wasn't it?
Yeah. And people kept saying to me, this is the worst weather. This is so terrible. I said, this is actually as bad as it gets. And they didn't believe me. I said, nope, this is a very bad January day. So the Aiken crew was surprised. They said, oh, this isn't so bad. I said, well, that's right, because you guys live in Aiken.
I know. Well, so everyone can get a bit of an idea, it got down to about 50 degrees, which is roughly 10 centigrade. It was overcast, sort of not quite drizzly, but sort of
proper
overcast
British weather.
And we had that for the Friday and
Saturday.
Especially the Saturday was a really, really cold day. And it is what happens. We do get about 3 or 4 days of those a year down here in Florida, and that's usually when the rest of the country is under 10 feet of snow. So, that
did snow in Virginia, though, over the week or during the week. So, everyone said, oh, it's so cold here. I said, what's your temperature at home? And they said, oh, it's this. I'm like, see, it's not so bad. It's all relative. But it was great for the horses. Did super. It was really good for the horses. And it was I know it was kind of a sucky weekend for you, but it was a very good competition.
I don't think it could have gone any worse for me, Max, to be honest.
I know, exactly. I mean,
I led my first horse away from the jog somewhat perplexed.
Yeah.
As I was spun, and we'd taken them up there the morning before, taken them out on the very jog strip, jogged them up. They looked absolutely perfect, and then for some reason he didn't look quite right. And I went to the hold box, and they found nothing wrong with him, and he trotted well in the hold. And they went and told the ground jury that the horse was good, and then he didn't look quite right again on the jog strip. And they sort of said,
sorry,
you can leave your $1,300 entry fee right here and go home. So I did. Anyway.
That's a stomach.
So that was the start of my weekend.
And Bees was going so great. Bees
is superstar. He's absolute superstar, and it was just really unfortunate. We had a long stride, bit of a trip up the step to there was a step up to a narrow wedge, and he put in one short stride, and he went to put in another short stride, and he couldn't decide whether to put in a stride or jump at the same time. And I went splat. So, but he's cool. He's fine. So,
he was so cool because you come up over his head, the bridle came off, and he just stood there, and he waited for you very patiently to put his bridle back on.
Yeah, he's a good boy though.
He's such a good boy. He's lovely.
He's a very special little horse, and we've just had one of those kind of unlucky times.
Yeah,
and it does happen in horses, and it did happen to me with Sanskrit way back when, and I even thought I've fallen off this horse so much it's a good thing that I own him.
Yeah.
Which it was just one of those things, and it happens from time to time, but he's in great shape, and he'll live to fight another day, and we'll go and do something else. And now that Land Rover's out of the picture for me, for him this April, we have a 5-star to get excited about to go to at Fair Hill. So, like not all is lost. And that has been a little bit of the trouble that we've had, isn't it, Max? Like, you know, if you don't qualify for Land Rover, you've got to wait a very long time before you can have another chance, unless you can
without putting them on a plane. Exactly.
Without putting them on a plane. So
yeah.
But anyway, so it did. Enough about my weekend, Max.
Yeah, I know.
Just take it on the chin.
What else we got? So halfway around the world, we had Adelaide, where
what happened there, Max? I didn't catch up with it.
Hazel, and I can't remember her last name now, but Hazel, she won for the third time. At Adelaide on the chestnut horse that come over for Kentucky. Horse. So that's congratulations to her on that.
Yep.
Sounds like that was a pretty good weekend. I spoke to Bobby Stevenson briefly earlier today, who said he'd been over there and what a great competition it was. And it was that everybody had a super time and good track and good entries. And it was actually a pretty good competition. In some years, it's been not the strongest field and not number wise and in talent. And he said this year it was really quite good. So that's great. And they have added on a short format and some show jumping there as well. So it gets to be a really great competition. So he had a super time there. So that was good. What else did we have? We've got the convention coming up in Boston, which is rapidly approaching. I'm going to give a little plug out to the horsemanship series that is going to happen there on Thursday morning. Mark Ravenaugh is coming to speak, as is Tim Warden from Canada, who's got some really cool statistics and things to talk about, all the smartphones and all the widgets and gadgets that we can use and what's the best way to use them. And Steve Teachman, who is the U.S. team farrier, is going to talk about some study that he's been doing on shoeing the hind foot and that type of thing. And then we're going to have a roundtable discussion. So Thursday morning, 9 a.m., be there because it's going to be awesome. Lots of cool information. I think they're doing a live stream of that as well. So get your membership going and get onto that and check it out because it'll be pretty interesting. So there you go. My plug is over.
Oh, good on you, Max.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's coming to this. It's great. It's quiet and down in Ocala. It's quiet now. We got Thanksgiving coming up. It's kind of a cruisy time, isn't it? Well, except for you sell a lot of horses and have babies and such going too, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it actually came as a little bit of a shock to me that my wife told me that the entries have just opened for Majestic Oaks, and I just said, "Really? Can I just take a breath?"
I know exactly. I know.
And if you're still keen, you can event at if you've got your entries in. Grand Oaks is on this weekend.
Yeah, and they've got prize money, $5,000 of prize money.
Oh wow, have they? Fantastic.
Yep.
So
they did.
Yeah, so everything's still going. Things have, over the past few years, Max, more and more people come down to Ocala a little bit earlier. The majority of people do still arrive sort of January 1st, January 2nd, January 3rd.
Yeah.
But with the introduction of these late fall events here in Ocala, meaning Rocking Horse and the Horse Park and Grand Oaks and the Jockey Club, it's given us a real fall season, and people are now coming down. A lot more professionals come down earlier. So we're getting the trickle-down effect of that. People are starting to buy more horses down here, and there's a good selection of horses now, especially in a week to 10 days' time, because, some of us have been to the sales in Ireland, picked up some nice sale horses.
Right.
They're arriving this week and things, and so people are stocking up on their nice sale horses. So it's I'm put my plug in. If anybody wants a nice new Christmas present, you just need to come and get hold of me.
Exactly.
But yeah, so we've got that, and it gives us a chance to work on some of the baby horses. Some of the bigger horses can have a little bit of a rest now, and the baby horses can come in. We do a bit with them and catch up on some of the things, teaching the students and doing stuff like that, which is not that it doesn't happen, but it's not quite as intense when we're working up to those big 3 days, Yeah. So getting everybody going again, and then Thanksgiving, which I'm starting to get more fond of, actually, Max.
Oh, I love Thanksgiving. I like Thanksgiving almost more than I like Christmas in a lot of ways.
You don't have to buy any presents, which is really cool.
There is, and it's about eating.
And it's about eating and cooking, and I really like that. So
I'm really good at that. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. So that's what we've got coming up. But I think we're probably all a bit biased about Ocala in the winter because we've probably had our winter last weekend, Max. We'll probably get another bout of it, sometime in January. But unless
maybe we'll get a frost, maybe.
Well, maybe get a frost, exactly. Maybe. So no, I just went out and checked my lettuces and my basil plants, and they're all looking my cilantro is all looking pretty good, Max. Here for end of November.
Yeah, exactly. It still keeps going.
Yeah, no, I know. So, but anyway, tell me this, Max. What else do they do at the convention?
There, it's a lot
apart from a lot of partying.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of meetings. They're trying to get more educational seminars going because that's why the adult amateurs want to come. Is to learn stuff. There's a bit of meet and greets. They've got the Pan American team will be there to do a little presentation of their trip, and that's good. And they've got different open forums where if people want to sit in, adult riders, the classic format. All that kind of stuff, just to people want to be part of it. They've got the actual annual meeting itself, which is the general membership gets to come and can have a conversation. It's just a big, massive open room, and they give you some lunch, and they have the actual annual meeting. They've got the awards banquet and such like that. So there's if you go on the USEA website, there's a link to the convention and all the stuff that's going on. So it's actually great. And it's the best city ever. It's in Boston.
I was just about to say, you must be pretty excited.
Ever. Yeah. Yes, I'm really excited. It is my hometown. I mean, I went to university about 4 blocks from there, and my mom used to live about 2 blocks from there. And I was born in the next town over. So actually, it is really pretty groovy that we're going to be there. I'm pretty excited. It is a great city. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be cold, but the cool thing about where the hotel is that you can stay inside, and it's connected to all these malls and stuff or not malls, I shouldn't say that. It's shopping areas. And you walk through these little tunnels and stuff. So you don't ever get cold and you don't ever have to go outside. And you can get all sorts of restaurants and bars, never going outside, which is so super.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think you can bring me back one of those styrofoam boxes of lobsters, Max?
I can try.
Yeah,
I can sure try. Yeah.
I think I know where to order them from.
You can get them from for sure. You can get them from at the airport. But yeah, there's a bunch of other places you can get them. Yep, that's maybe not as expensive. So there we go. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Right, Max. Well, we've got a couple of exciting guests coming up on our show. We've got Lynn Symansky and we've got Erin Sylvester, who we know has been. We know that has been on the last show, but she won it again on a different thoroughbred. So we're going to check her out and talk to her about that. But we should probably get on with our show.
Joining us now is Lynn Symansky. Lynn, welcome back to the show.
Thanks so much for having me back, guys. How's it going?
It's good. It's good. So we got a couple of cool things to talk to you about because we've got the Jockey Club. You had a great weekend there. We got you are a sponsored rider for Pro Elite, which is one of our big sponsors, and you're also the chairman of the Active Athletes Committee for the USEF, and so we just had the FEI General Assembly, so we got lots to catch up on.
How many things happening?
I know. First of all, we'll talk more recently. How was your weekend? You had a good weekend at the Jockey Club?
Yeah, I would say it was a productive weekend overall. I was thrown for a loop at the last second. I had a last-minute unplanned injury, so I missed my final run with all my horses, and I had to scratch everyone from Virginia, which was their final preparation, and then scratch everybody else from Jockey Club because the most important one to focus on that weekend was our Cool Play, who, yes, we were going for the Olympic qualifier, and while it wasn't really the result on paper 2 weeks prior I had hoped for, we survived. I had been kicked by a horse, and I ended up breaking my elbow, but that all healed very quickly thanks to some wonderful vets and doctors that got me back in riding shape. So
isn't it funny how we look to our vets? We're like, hey, look, our vets got us back going. But yes, it is amazing
what the so funny.
access things that they have.
X-rays. Yeah, they have our names. They have our names in there, not just our horses' names. So you go in and be interesting to see all the different vets that Boyd has been a part of with X-rays and stuff, and broken more bones than me.
No kidding. Oh my God. That is true. But anyway, so yeah, it was a good weekend. There was a little bit of talk about the course in the beginning of the week, and but it all seemed to ride better than people anticipated. Maybe a little tight on the roping and such, but the horses all seemed to cope with the whole thing okay.
Yeah, we got really lucky actually with the rain. Unfortunately, it was freezing, and it was nothing like we're used to in Florida. But the ground and the going was fantastic. I thought actually all the questions were, they were good questions. It was quite fair. I do think that some of the roping was a bit tight for what we're used to. I do really appreciate having riders figure out how to ride close to the ropes, because we don't see that all the time in this country. And then you get over to the UK or to Ocala,
like Ocala,
somewhere. Yeah, and so that's sometimes the first time you see it. So I think it's something that's very important for riders here to practice. That being said, it is such an open, beautiful piece of land that I think I felt it, especially because I had one fully functioning hand, so it was very difficult for me to turn compared to normal. But it did have more of a twisty feel. It reminded me how the horse felt it leave off. It was quite turny and jerking on itself. So I think, some tweaking with some of the galloping lanes, and it's such a fantastic venue.
There were like in the 4-star long course especially, there was quite a few rollbacks where normally you'd sort of come on up cruising to something with a bit of a curve, and this time it was more of a stop and get going slow and then and turn and then have to pick up the pace again. And so you're in and out of the rhythm a little bit, so it made the time like pretty tough, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And I think probably that was part of his plan as course designer, because in the years past, everyone was complaining about how long it was and then came in easily making time. So I think it was to try and make it difficult to make time, which is not a bad thing when you're trying to be competitive. It's just tough for some, newer riders and greener horses to get into a flow and a rhythm, throughout the course, and you keep moving back on yourself like that.
Yeah. Well, we can roll this straight into one thing we didn't have this weekend, which was really very nice, was any 15 penalty flag rules.
Yeah, you know what? We were all just waiting for one. I have to say, I have been working quite a bit on making calls and making sure that we are all represented and get, each party's take on the flag rule. And then I did end up knocking one pretty well with my foot. And as I did it, I was thinking, oh my gosh, here we go. Isn't that ironic? Yeah. But the horse did have full intention of jumping the fence. And we are still in stages of trying to iron that out with the FEI and getting all the riders' inputs and, owners and stakeholders, that everybody is affected by this. It's not just our performance on paper. Like, all of our owners and supporters have put so much time and effort behind us, are frustrated with how some of the year has gone. So I think everyone's trying to work together to make
where are we at now with the flag rule?
Yeah. I mean, where are we? There'll be no more flags ever. You're just on the honor code if you get it. Where we are is we just had the General Assembly last week, where it was voted through their slightly different wording for the flag rule. It is somewhat similar to where we are now, but I think it's clear with the verbiage that whether a horse will have clear still 15 penalties, that number still stands, or if it's going to be 20 penalties and I have to come around and represent. So where we are now is trying to figure out with the FEI how to make sure that is uniformly implemented throughout each nation. That's what some of the frustration was in this last year, that it seemed it was very strictly enforced, for instance, at Fair Hill, and maybe not so strictly enforced in other competitions. I know there was talk at Burley if that it would have changed results if it had been enforced a different way. So I think riders, owners, stakeholders are all frustrated that there just doesn't seem to be a uniformly fair way it's being interpreted. So
the consistency part is lacking.
Yeah. And some of that comes, there's a lot of different factors with that, but, I think as the riders, we'd like to at least see that we know where that camera is going to be ahead of time. Almost like when you have the course open on Wednesday and the officials okay all the flags and the way the course is. I think y'all should be okaying where this camera angle is going to be, so we all know ahead of time exactly what the standard is on where that view is going to come from.
And it's also been a little bit frustrating too, because I feel like a lot of times the ground jury gets to see the videos, but the riders and the general public don't get to see the video after it's been decided upon. And so that's a bit frustrating, because sometimes, you as a rider might think, yeah, I was so in that flag. There is no way. And then you actually see the video and you say, oh, maybe not. Maybe I really wasn't. Yep. Or,
Max, I think people Max, I think people are lying. Yeah. From experience, I can tell you, I know when I'm not in a flag, and I know when I am in a flag, and I know the difference between my foot and my horse's shoulder. And there's a lot of people.
It's the front end; it's the back end. I think is this whole thing is what we've been
it's
where we've been
struggling
is the hind end. The front end, yes. I mean, people should know; they should know definitely. But it's the hind end that it needs to show that it's jumping the height of the jump, even if it's not between the flags. And I think that actually is something that people can't necessarily gauge.
I get that, but there's a lot of people that have got away with a whole lot of stuff when they would have, I'm sure, in their heart of hearts, they knew that they felt the horse's hind end slunk out and never really take it off the ground at all.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and I think Max has a fair point, and that's another thing that we're trying to push, is that if we are going to be challenging these 15 penalty calls, and we're not able as a public to see that video, that's very frustrating, because it can be spun one way or another, whether the ground jury is being a little bit unfair or whether the rider maybe, is stretching the truth. This holds everyone to a totally, completely level playing field. If we're able to see that footage that they're making that call on, it holds the officials to a higher standard to be enforcing it the same in each event. And it also holds the riders to a high standard, like Joe's saying. Some people actually do know, and maybe they're, trying to get away with it. I think that's a good way to make sure that both sides are answering to what,
Lynn,
what we're being judged on.
Don't forget that team managers and chefs are there to do whatever it takes to get a clear round for their riders, and especially in team situations. So even if it's just really clear and obvious that it's a 15 or a 20, they're there to fight it,
Yep. Especially going into next year. I think that's why everyone is so upset and making sure that we have it on our side. And, I think from the other side of it, I think sometimes, nations that know they are really good at cross country and not possibly knocking one flag, maybe this rule could play to their favor, and they're trying to knock everyone else out of the competition because they have no doubt they're going to go clear. So I think everyone's trying to make sure that there is, at least we're all being judged to the same standard. Whether or not this rule is going to stick around forever as is, that's to be seen. But the short-term concern, especially with the Olympics on the short horizon, is, we don't get into the mess that we did with Fair Hill last month.
Fair Hill and Kentucky.
Yeah,
and Fair Hill was tricky too, because it was, there were a few riders that finished their cross country, and then they were early on in the day, and then later on in the afternoon, an hour after the cross country had finished, so that horse had been finished for almost 3 to 4 hours. That's when the penalties come up, and that's frustrating.
Yeah, and there needs to be a standardization of when that call was made. And part of the problem was, Will was in the beginning of the division. Those guys were in the end. However, it still came way later than, we ever want to see in competition, because sport doesn't work like it. Gets more confusing for the people watching
exactly.
as well. It's not just unfair to us as the rider and our owners that, we think we're clear and there's no question. And then all of a sudden the score changes later. That's what we're trying to, make sure that we stand up for ourselves and make sure this doesn't happen again, because that's why everyone gets so emotional about it, because it hasn't been, done the same from event to event. So
do you think there's some strange correlation as to why it's happened in America more than it's happened in other countries? Or do you think we're just been completely unlucky?
Well,
or same ground jury?
I think maybe it's ground jury, and and I'm not saying the ground jury is doing a bad or good job one place over the other, but I think some ground juries have been enforcing it to a higher standard than others, and that's a problem. I think the FEI needs to, and from my understanding, are working on this to educate, the ground jury to have a standard that they hold them to, so there isn't that difference. Because it's, I know people are saying, the ground jury's out for someone and they're not for someone else, and I really can't comment on that. But I do think it has been held to a higher standard at some places and not enforced nearly as high at others.
Yeah.
So that's more, I think, what
I thought it was interesting watching Poe. They seem to have cameras set up on tripods with like a GoPro or a video camera type of thing, which took the human, mistake, that sort of human error completely out of the equation when it came to videoing, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So it was just there, and nobody was. It was there. It was the same place for every single person.
Yeah, and I think that is why then, if we don't have that, because that's an added expense for every competition, I think that's a good way to take the human error out of it. But if not everyone can do that, that's why you have to have it marked exactly where they are, because even 1 foot in the direction one way or another
makes total difference.
It does. That's why it's so hard to take. You take a video of the same person, and one looks like the horse is totally in, and the other looks like it's completely out. So
it does. And the other thing about the GoPros, it's just not as fast, to be able to take the data and to download it and to email it to the ground jury. It's just not as quick as someone having an iPad there, so that's it would just be wonderful if we had a rule to not have to make this all so complicated. It's just what's going through my head right now. It's just, it's got to the point where accuracy has become such a huge factor and things. And, it would just, if we could just simplify it to make it a whole lot easier, and
I think maybe in the future, that's where it will go.
Yeah.
But for the sake of the way that, the rules process works and having Tokyo next year, I think everyone's trying to find a compromise that at least it's, there's more of a clear standard of how it's going to be enforced. And then in the long term, we all work together to try and figure out, again, like you say, how to simplify it. I think that this rule came about to try and simplify the fact that some people were getting away with clearly not jumping between flags. It's actually just complicated the matter even more.
Yeah. And it is frustrating. Well, here's hoping we can sort something. They will something.
Way back in the day, the rule was the horse had to get its head and shoulders through the flags.
Right. But that's it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's how Philip, you look at Philip at the Olympics. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you have said that horse was clear?
Well, the way the rule was written then, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then
we were happy it was clear.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got, Shane Rose. Was it Shane Rose down in Adelaide with the gray horse?
Yep.
And the horse's head and shoulder went through the flag, but the horse clearly did not jump it. So there was that as well, so it was,
I think fence designs changed a little bit as well, because back in the old days, and I'm talking a way back, horses did have to make an effort to get their head and shoulders through the flag to begin with. Does that make does everyone follow me on this?
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And the other interesting thing you say about that now is, I mean, it's like if you have a horse that jumps a really solid, heavy rail versus a light PVC. They're going to not respect the rail if you keep jumping a PVC every day. And now these flags have become skinnier and sometimes so easy to dislodge. Obviously, we had to go to that type of material because we had some safety issues with flags and hurting horses in the past. But you almost feel there comes a point with the design of everything getting skinnier that the horses actually aren't looking to always stay through the flags because it's so easy to find the door out now. So I think that, another talking point for the future is how can we make these flags so they actually mean something.
I think we need to have big, tough flags at our schooling at home, Lynn. Yeah.
Have them bolted on there.
I have 2x4s.
2x4 flags on.
Exactly.
Keep them in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah. Have some bruised kneecaps, but the horse will jump inside the flag.
Yeah.
That'll teach you.
Exactly. Oh my God. And so it looks like this Olympic format is going to stay for this cycle, which will be very confusing, but it's what we got for this cycle, isn't it?
Yeah, I would not want to be the announcer that is, giving real-time information on what is going on because, holy moly, I have no idea what's going on with the scoring. And, once you bring this into account, because then you're going to have other nations that are, going to be upset one way or another. So it could be quite exciting.
It's we had John Kyle on a month or two ago, and he seemed to think he was quite all for it, and all the rest of it, and and I had to say he did try and sell it really well, but I just don't get it. It's like I'm going to have someone there like spoon feeding me the information because I just don't understand it for a start. The other thing I want to say, and I don't know the stats, and you guys might, is at the moment we have this phenomenon where a country can qualify for the Olympics, but they cannot field a team unless they have 3 fully qualified combinations. And that means long 4 and short 4 with an MER or a 5-star, as I've come to believe. Now, I'm pretty sure that we've got the likes of Brazil still trying at the moment to get their last qualifier.
And that's what what's his name was trying to get done this weekend.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Nilsson. Yeah.
Nilsson.
Unfortunately for Nilsson, he had a brain fart and had 2 course errors and missed his qualifying score.
Yeah.
Which and I know that sounds really tough, but like I've had plenty of times I've forgotten the course myself, and we all do it, unfortunately. But so what I'm leading on to is I know that the whole 3-person in the team was to get more countries going to the Olympics. But are we really going to see more countries going to the Olympics when the qualifying rules seem to be so strict?
Well, I think it's actually I think I think the more countries thing actually was more for jumping and dressage, which still at the end of the day, they're still worried about the welfare of the horses going to those competitions because the jumpers now have the individual finals before the team finals. So that's also really hard too, because now that course designer needs to make something that's hard enough to test the true individual champion, but not so hard that it's not going to affect or injure the horses from the lesser countries that probably shouldn't be there, but are there to have the T-shirt, to go and buy the T-shirt, if you know what I mean by that. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be a very tough thing. And I know that sounds
like course designer's nightmare. I mean, it's all very well for dressage. They just get themselves, go and buy themselves a new horse. Exactly. And line up and travel around Europe and finally get a qualifying score here and there, and away they go. Exactly. Unfortunately
the
for us, we just can't do that. No,
the jumpers are way more upset and vocal about what's happening. And then you've got your team competition after. So then how many riders, maybe their horses have jumped really hard the first couple of days and they've got their individual gold medal. Do they really, and their horse maybe is just a touch sore. Are they going to jump for their team? Probably not, but you can't switch something in without having a stupid amount of penalties. And then talk about confusing. That person that gets swapped in will take on the highest penalty of the current competition. So say day 4, you're switching somebody in, you have to wait to the end of that competition day to see who has the highest score, and that's what your rider will take on.
Whose genius idea was this?
So, you think our sport's hard right now. This makes jumping used to be way easy. It's like you went fast and you left all the rails up.
Left up the rails,
right?
Yeah.
And you won. You went fast and you left up all the rails, you win, right? That people are pretty good about doing that. But now the team score, it's a whole new thing now. So I think
and isn't that funny? Because you think you're making it more accessible to the public, or that was the original, reasoning behind it, but it actually is so much more confusing to present on that space.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I don't like about it is that it seems to have a little bit of a spin on horse welfare as well for me. And,
absolutely.
That's, where people can do this and can't do this and have to push a bit to do this, it doesn't quite add up in my mind.
Yeah. So in the end, Canada actually may qualify as a team because Brazil may not have enough riders to field the team, and they send an individual and not a team.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So there's that.
Well, but
on the edge of our seats.
But you're absolutely
so stand
right.
By.
I think they think it's December 1st is the cutoff as well, isn't it?
Yeah. And don't worry, this will happen. We'll get back to the old days of they'll put on a long 4-star somewhere in South America at someone's place somewhere that just to make it just so that they can. That's look. So
I'll go.
There you go. Pick me. Yeah, as long as and the competition will have no flags.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It'll get rid of all the problems.
They'll just have numbers.
I'll tell you what,
flags.
we're going to let's bring back the long format, the true long format, and have no flags everywhere.
Yeah.
Just numbers. That'll be perfect. Oh my God. Well, let's talk about one of the other reasons why we have you on the show is because our dear sponsor, Pro Elite, a sponsor of yours for a bit now. So tell us a little bit, what do people need to know about Pro Elite?
Yeah, they've been fantastic to work with. And at the end of the day, I think as riders, we're so busy doing so many other things. And nutrition and, the horse management in the barn is so important. But the last thing I really want to be worrying about, in the lead up to a 3-day is, oh gosh, if they drop too much weight, or this one looks a little too chunky going into it. And I think I have a lot of different types of horses, different types of models. I have full thoroughbreds and also have some that have quite a bit of warm blood in them. And I think this grain has been great for all of them. There's there's a lot of different options that they have in terms of what you can feed. I would say I personally like to keep a lot of mine on a senior, even if they're not older horses. I think they do really well on the senior feed. There's also have a lot of different options, especially when you go from Florida back up north. A lot of horses tend to deal with changing grass quality, and tying up is a big concern for event horses, especially. They have a starch-wise for that. They also have a top-line advantage, which helps add a little top line, even when you're not wanting to change the nutritional value to the grain that they're on. They have food for easy keepers, ones that are hard to keep. So it's like having a super quality baseline, and then you get to just mix it up a little bit. It's like if you like your shampoo, but then you're not really happy with the texture of your hair, you can, add a little more.
I have that trouble,
Yeah, you do have that trouble.
I knew you did. That's why I used this.
I do.
I knew you would get
I need to switch it up a little. Yeah.
That's awesome.
You know what? So you would be able to use the equivalent of Pro Elite because they have one that grows hair. So there you go.
Okay. Oh, I'm all over that. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And is it easy to find, Lynn?
Yeah, it is. So I buy it at home. I buy it through Southern States. They have a few, when I go down south, I have a few different people that carry it, but it's seen through all different stores. So I've had no issue ever sourcing it, and the horses eat it great. It's very palatable.
That's actually a big deal, isn't it? Actually, it's like you can have the fanciest grain, but if your horse doesn't eat it, then big deal.
And I have to admit, I've had that issue in the past, trying to figure out a grain that, on paper it looks great and it's expensive and everybody swears by it, but the horses don't really eat it. And then if you're having to add something to make it more palatable, you're changing, the nutritional value of the grain. So, it's just my horses, I think, biased, but I think they look well, and I've never really been concerned on how to keep them on the type of grain and tweak it a little bit depending on where they are in their seasons and what each of them need.
That's awesome. That's pretty nice. That's actually,
it is nice. You don't have to worry about it. There's enough other things we have to worry about. So
exactly.
And they've been great to work with. So and they are a sponsor of mine, but I do have options for different companies to work with, and they've been wonderful to work with, and the horses are happy. And so that, that's what sells it to me is something that the horses do well on, and they're happy eating, and it makes life a lot simpler in the end of the day.
Yeah. And they have they've got their own mill, and so everything is quality controlled and all that other good stuff too, isn't it? Yeah. Which after we've heard these stories about these horror stories about other grain companies that have had some contamination from, cattle grain, then the horses getting neurologic. And so it gets on so many different levels of how important that is to have the clean.
It is. It's terrifying. And also, so when you have the horses that are, traveling overseas, the big concern, especially the top horses, is the FEI level with drug testing. If you don't have any sort of standardization, you have no idea what tiny little trace anything could be in there to contaminate them. And that's a big deal, especially going into, games or championship.
Absolutely. Yep. And where can people find more information? Is there a website?
So you can find it at proelitehorsebeat.com.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they have a really well laid out, chart, analysis between each of the grains. So, if you know what your horse has done well on and want to try that, you can find something similar. It compares different brands. It also cross compares all of their own grains and their supplements as well.
Good stuff. Excellent. Well, Lynn, you're busy trying to do things and getting your regrouping and teaching lessons and all that other kind of bazillions of stuff. So we'll let you go.
Lynn, your Twitter handle is at Lynn Symansky EQ with a capital L, a capital S, and a capital E, and then Q. Okay, just thought I'd let you know.
Did you? I knew you pulled that. I know you use it every day, so that's how you knew it. So you could share it with everyone. So thank you.
Yeah, exactly. It would be actually really funny if the professional riders actually did their own Twitter and their own Facebook page. It would actually be kind of comical because it would be gibberish.
Well, some people do it. But I usually will add some pictures and give my input, but then I actually wouldn't know how to do it myself.
Exactly.
I think, we all just watched Kyle Carter reposting a video 30 times on Facebook over the last 24 hours, which that's a case in point. That is exactly why we can't be responsible for doing our own thing.
Exactly.
Because it was just one video on repeat.
And again, and again, and again. Bless his socks. Very good. Very good.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for having me on.
Stay warm up there, and we will see you soon.
The Eventing Riders Association of North America is the collective voice of riders, equine professionals, and owners in pursuit of enhancing the growing sport of eventing in North America. In cooperation with our members, governing bodies, related committees, and organizers, ERA of NA works to improve the overall welfare, safety, visibility, and growth of the sport. ERA of NA, your voice matters for the sport of eventing. Jump in and engage by becoming a member today. Find them online at www.eraofna.com.
And a really warm welcome back to Erin Sylvester.
Hi. Thanks for having me on again.
No worries, no worries.
And again, and again.
And again, you're just like, you're just winning so much that we just had to have you back. But what's really cool is it was on a different horse. And like, I have to say that Paddy the Caddy's one of my favorite horses because number one, he's a thoroughbred. And number two, he's an awesome show jumper. But this is a chance to talk about Campground and the Jockey Club and how he went this weekend. So can you just tell us a little bit about it? First of all, tell us a little bit about Campground.
Yeah. So Campground, Gideon is his barn name. He is a 12-year-old thoroughbred that he was bought by his owner, Marnie Kelly, as a 3-year-old. He had trained on the track in Kentucky, but never ran. And we have brought him along together from the start. Marnie's been a longtime client and good friend of mine, and she's the sweetest lady in the world. And, he's been a great horse all along. He's a thoroughbred. He struggles a little bit with his dressage, but is a super jumper, loves to gallop, and just has a heart of gold. So it was really special for him to have the chance to take the victory this weekend because he's a winning mindset and heart and everything. And he doesn't always get the chance to kind of come out on top. It takes an event where the cross country is a bit gritty and a few different things happen that just sort of give him the opportunity to soar up to the top. So I was very excited for him that he had that spot in the limelight this weekend.
Because he a little bit falls in, because everybody knows Paddy the Caddy because he's such a dude, but so he a little bit falls into the shadow of Paddy, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah. He does. Poor guy.
Well, it's kind of cool to have a shadowed horse win, right? It's still pretty great. Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, and you had quite an epic save. I don't know if the listeners or anybody has seen at the first water. And it was interesting. I was in the clubhouse working and we hear this, oh, yay. And everybody starts cheering. And I said, what happened? They said, oh my God, Erin Sylvester just had the most epic save. And I said it would be so cool for the riders to be able to hear that, to be able to hear that everybody else cheering for you because it was kind of a big drop in. He just sort of tripped a little bit. It wasn't even that big of a huge save, but he just picked his head up and went on with it, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, he was awesome about it. I really thought we were going down. As it was happening, I was like, well, this is happening. It's going to be a long drive home. And then he's righting himself and his head's coming up and I'm like, well, this stinks. I'm going to have to circle now. And then he just picked up on the fence and I was like, oh God, we're actually doing this. So I held the rein and kicked him and he loved it. And he's a funny horse. Some horses, if they'd have something like that happen, it would rattle them a little bit. And he's the type of horse when he has to fight really hard through something, he gets to the backside and he's just so pumped that he did it, that he's like sky high confidence after that. So on another horse, having that happen at the water, like maybe I'd be really worried about like the corner combination and those double brushes ended up causing a fair bit of issues. And they were basically right after that water. There was one let up fence in between. And so I think if I was on a different horse, I'd be a little worried that, oh God, we've got these really tough combinations coming up and I got to get his confidence back up. And it just didn't even faze him in the slightest. Like he was so excited that he had conquered that. And then at the corners and at the brushes, he was on fire.
Yeah. And so it's been both of these competitions that you've just won back to back. You have not been in the lead going into the show jumping. You've just gone in and done your show jumping round and then sort of patiently waited to see what happened. Because were you in third place going into show jumping this weekend?
I was, and Philip was in second, and Lauren was in first.
Yeah, so that must have been, you sort of do your round, and you're sort of ho-hum, oh yay, I finished, and then it's a bit of a surprise that you actually won.
Yeah, we actually came into the event with not the highest confidence with his show jumping. He can have really good rounds in him, and he can have rounds where he gets pretty nervous and a little bit unrideable in the ring, and then he'll have a few rails. In his last event that he did was Plantation, he had 3 rails down there, and some of the course was really nice, but there were 2 spots where he got kind of tight and unrideable on me, and then he had rails because of it. And so the biggest thing for me is I wanted to come through this weekend and finish him on his dressage score or close to it. And we have Kentucky in our sight for the spring for him. And I wanted to, we've changed some things with show jumping, and I wanted to see that through and feel that we had a rideable horse on Sunday and all of that. So the win was awesome, and I'm so excited about it, and excited for Gideon and for Marnie. But it was also just really exciting to have the horse that I had in show jumping, and he was super rideable. The one rail that we had, I could have prevented it. And he just was great in the arena. He didn't get nervous, and he was very rideable, and he just tried to jump careful the whole way around. Because
there's plenty of atmosphere down in there with the trade stands all around and the flags going and everything.
Yeah, there was. And he, in the past, has kind of struggled with that. He very much struggles with that at Plantation. And he seemed like he struggled with it in his dressage. He didn't have his best test on Friday. He warmed up very well. And then when he got down there, he got a little bit boiled over when he was going around the arena, and I was just battling a bit of tension through the whole test. So I didn't know if that was going to kind of carry over into the show jumping, and it didn't. He was so focused and didn't think about anything except what I was asking him and the fences that were in front of him. And I haven't had him feel. He's had some clear show jump rounds in the last year, but none of them, they've been feeling wild and clear. He's not been the most rideable, but he wants to jump clear. So he's just jumping really big and kind of trying too hard. But on Sunday, he just was all business and let me put him at every distance I wanted to, and wasn't thinking about anything other than me and the jumps. And so that was really nice to feel, and a nice feeling to be carrying forward into what we're hoping for next year.
That's cool. And nice. You ride a lot of thoroughbreds. It's nice the Jockey Club has these prizes for the thoroughbreds as well.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and they had 2 thoroughbreds that won 2 of the long format levels, which I think was pretty special for the owners of the Jockey Club, but I think it's pretty cool. We just don't get to see that often anymore, do we?
I know, yeah. Well, I didn't get the chance to walk the 3-star course, but the 4-star course definitely walked a thoroughbred track. Walking around it, I was really, really happy. I was going to be riding around on the horse that I saw, because I could tell, they turned around the loop that you came up to the top of the hill where they had the double brush, brush chevrons this year. And in the past, you've made a slower pull up to that spot. And I don't know, I felt like the way that it was laid out this year, it seemed like it was going to take a bit more out of the horses, and it's still covering the same ground. And I don't know why I got that feeling, but I did think that going from the double brushes at the ditches at the bottom of the hill and having to carry up to the top of that hill rather than run down that hill, which the course has done in the past.
I thought that would be a little bit more taxing on the horses, and I think it was when you looked at how the.
It was a little bit longer, you know. It was 26 seconds longer this year. It was 10 minutes last year. And,
was it really?
Yeah, because it was the same as the long 3 last year, if you remember.
Right. Yes, I remember the drama.
10 minutes. Yeah. So both 10 minutes. So this is 26 seconds longer, but it also had rollbacks and things which we didn't have the year before. Now, last year, the time was not easy to make in the long 4, whereas the ones in the long 3, a lot of horses went round inside the time easily because they had 10 minutes and plenty of galloping. You know, so that's probably why we switched it up, and that's probably why, Erin, that you thinking it was a little bit tougher, because it was. You know, it was a wee bit longer, and it was a little bit more demanding, I thought.
Yeah.
So now you're home, your horses are having a bit of a holiday. What's next for you? Do you guys still have competitions? You've got obviously lots of students you're teaching, because you were busy teaching today.
Yep. We don't have any more competitions for the season, but
thank God, right?
I know. Very happy to have it over. I like November and December just having like a bit of normalcy in our lifestyle.
Yeah.
But we are looking forward to heading to Aiken at the beginning of the year, and we'll be there until the end of March. And until that point, I'm just teaching locally. There are a couple of pony clubs that I work closely with. So when I'm not on the road going to the bigger shows, I'm catching up on teaching all those kids, and they're a lot of fun. So I'll just be teaching and doing a few clinics until we leave, and trying to steal away with my husband for something of a small honeymoon, but I'm not sure.
Details. Exactly.
Yeah.
I know, because you just got married. When did you got married? Not too long ago.
In June, yeah.
Yeah. So it's been and that's a tough thing about being eventing. You just sort of, you can get, there's a weekend, but there's usually not a week after that weekend, is there?
Yeah. This is the only time of year that you can really easily get away with being gone for, 5 to 7 days or something, which is not, if we go away, it'll be for 3 days. We both get a little stir crazy. We're good with shorter vacations, and then we like to get back home. We have a big farm that always takes so much work and care, so it's hard for us to leave it for more than a few days.
Yeah, as always, as everyone knows.
As is horses.
Yep, horses. I know. Cool that you still do a lot of pony club stuff, because I feel like that's something that's was fading away for a bit, but I feel like a lot of people are starting to get reconnected with the pony club.
Yeah, it is good. I think it comes in waves like anything else. What I've experienced is there are a lot of clubs that will kind of be on an uphill swing, and we'll pull a lot of kids in, and they'll be very strong for maybe 10 or 15 years. And then that interest wanes, and then another club will come in a little bit stronger, and that kind of thing. So
yeah, generational, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think it's important, something that there's parts of it that are so great, the camaraderie they have and the education that they learn and all that is awesome. We are going to let you go and hopefully plan out your vacation. But thank you again for coming on with us, and congratulations again. What a great
well done.
way to finish up your fall.
Yeah. Well done.
It's pretty great, pretty incredible.
Thank you. We're excited about it. Hopefully we can carry it forward to 2020.
Well, it's cool that Thoroughbreds is still rating supreme, isn't it, Max?
I know.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's great for the owners of the Jockey Club, Pablo and Eric, that are so great to let us use their property, because they're Thoroughbred fans. They're not eventing fans. So for 2 Thoroughbreds to win 2 of the divisions was awesome. I think that was really cool.
No, it was.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
She's on fire. Erin's on fire.
I know.
That's
I know.
cool.
I know. So yeah. Well, there's nothing like a nice thoroughbred that you can shake the reins at 10 minutes and they just find another gear. Which
Don't
is,
they? Yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
For some of those warm bloods, they want to change places with you.
It's true.
You carry me. No,
exactly.
Yeah, and they never lose their jump. And I mean, you might hate them on the first day, but you love them on the third.
No, well, you do. And especially when, they do. They keep their energy and they're just fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Max, it's probably time that you started packing your bags for the convention. And but before that, you're very excited about this. I can tell, aren't you?
I love Boston. I'm just excited to be there. I'm going to see my college roommates. I'm going to see my my family. So there's lots of people up on the North Shore that I haven't seen in a while. So I'm pretty excited. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to have fun. Good for you, Max.
Irish bars,
That would be awesome. I'd love to go, actually. It sounds like
a great city.
Yeah.
It's a great city. Great restaurants, great city, great people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
Yeah. Well, speaking of great restaurants, Ruthie and I and my parents slipped down to Naples to have a couple of nights with the Foot family down there.
Nice.
And I have to say that it was rather a special treat.
Yes, I can only imagine.
There's some fabulous. It's like the Riviera. It's unbelievable down there. Yeah. So no, it's pretty cool. That's cool.
Awesome.
Anyway, Max, but about time you got the closing bits done.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to the Eventing Riders Association of North America podcast. You can learn more about Eventing Riders Association of North America at eraofna.com. And everybody should buy their new insurance because it's coming up and it's really good insurance. So there's that. You can find the links to today's guests and topics at eventingradio.com. Follow Eventing Radio on Facebook. Just search for The Eventing Radio Show, and on Twitter at Eventing Radio. Listen to The Eventing Radio anytime, anywhere with a free Horse Radio Network app for the iPhone or Android. Go to your app store and search Horse Radio Network. You can also subscribe via iTunes. Thanks again to our sponsor, Pro Elite Feeds. Ask for Pro Elite at your local feed supplier or visit them online at proelitehorsefeed.com. There we go, Lynn Symansky. This is Max, and you can find me on Facebook, Max Corcoran Horse Care. You can find me at the convention in Boston at the Sheraton Hotel, December 12th through the 15th, or at Cleary's, which is the great local Irish bar down the road. You can find me on Instagram at MMC338, and you can read my blogs at Max Corcoran WordPress.
And this is Joe, and you can find me on Facebook, Joe Meyer, on my website, joemeyeriventing.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Joe Meyer, EVNTR. You can find me on Instagram, Joe Meyer Eventing. And if you want to find your new horse, present, or anything else, just get hold of me. You can find me training him in sunny Ocala, Florida, getting him all ready. But enough about Max. Max, have an awesome convention, Max. I know you're going to have a lot of fun, and I'll probably be at Universal Studios with the children at that stage, which I'm really excited about. But thank you, listeners, and we'll talk to you again in 1 month's time.
Bye, everyone.